Now I want to introduce the fourth presentation. The title of the presentation will be Earthly, Water and Underwater Meetings of the Phoenicians and the Greeks, Mythological and the Religious Ways of Transmission in the east of the Mediterranean. This presentation will be delivered by Mr. ULANOWSKI. Mr. ULANOWSKI, I am giving the words to you.
Hello. There is the title is quite long because there is of course more generic presentation where typical underwater. Your idea is excellent. I am impressed of so many wonderful research. Unfortunately, I am here more historian and religious science researcher, but anyway, I am here 200 meters from the shore of Baltic Sea, and I thought that it will be interesting to show the presentation maybe in some broader context. And I start maybe like this, that will be better. The first, the depictions of ship of naval interest in the Mediterranean is as old as 4 millennium before Christ. And the first depiction is maybe quite known, but the second from the Malta is quite untypical, and maybe it could be older than the first one, and could be 4 or even 5 millennium BC. And interestingly, Malta is the place that the Punic and earlier Phoenician have big access, but never was the interest of Greek culture. That's the question to open later. Why? And many depiction, of course, I have not so many time to in detail explain the rules, but I presented in the 4th millennium before Christ, in 160 BC, the Minoans was especially active in the area of Mediterranean. You have here more presentation, the old ships, the first ships. There are merchant as well, the war ships. There is, of course, all are presented in the special way of mythological aspects and mythological background. In the next few photos, I will shed more light. And I'm here to present these different, here there is one Phoenician, a second there is Minoan or Greek, because it's presented in the 120 before Christ. It's the question where started the Greek times, pre-Greek, Minoan, Mycenaean, and later Greeks. But for me interesting is this motif there is found everywhere, in Crete, in Cyprus, in Phoenician cities, Byblos, Tyr, of course in Naucratis, in Ugarit, in all the places there are in the east part of Mediterranean, there are very similar presentation. And like here on the second presentation, here we see some motifs that are to explain. Very often there is example of travel. Here probably there is the sacrificial way in art gifted to Artemis Orthia, but it goes about the motif of Theseus, Ariadne, and other way for challenging new way of finding people, of penetrating other cultures, or meeting on the borders of the cultures, because that could be the Gilgamesh, that could be the motif of the goddess, and there in this way it's connected with travel, not only travel in this earthly or naval way, but underworld way, because some motifs are related to the world there is underworld called. Here I have the presentation of other Greek boats or ships, because very often there are maritime ships, and these are the travel for gaining some new gifts, for there are very often pirates that penetrated the richest regions of Cyprus, of Phoenician cities, and the Greeks very often work very quick, and there are some ships that we show and very disappear very often. There is written in Assyrian annals, for example, for Sennacherib and others, presented this way of working. And here there are other presentation of ceramic. Here we see, of course, there are the warlike motifs, very common, very often presented, some very aggressive attitude to others. Of course, the world was not easy those days, and the people must give the time and extra gifts for life. And sometimes the Greece was not so popular for making food by, you know, very often and very difficult working. It was much easier to go to the ship and travel to the much richer regions and make a robbery. Of course, here there is the presentation connected also with mythology. We know later from the Odysseus, Scylla, and Charybda, but first was known this kind of creatures were good known in the Phoenician or also Assyrian mythology. Here, very interesting that this word of Phoenician cities, these cities that are on the border of the sea or on the island, were very typical and very popular in presenting in old Assyrian palaces. And here there are this word from palaces of Sennacherib and Sargon II, and all presented the Phoenicians. And here we see also the special bull special creature connected also with mythical word. Here I presented the city. There is the representation of Minoan city, but it's interestingly the second one is finding in necropolis that the impression of the cities was so strong that the people wanted to take them with you to the underworld, because must be something special and something powerful. This is the proof that
Mr. ULANOWSKI, we expect you to complete your presentation within 2 minutes.
Of course, I will finish. Here are the motifs of cultural influence. Here there are the gorgons, not so famous in Greek world, but after the penetration, the East cultures are more common even in religious buildings. Here, if the motif of Perseus taken, the killing the Gorgon, there is typical Mesopotamian motif that was changed and introduced to Greek world. Here there are the other things, but especially this one, Phoenician, that used the Egyptian motifs and later take it to the Greek mythology. Here there are the fragment of Greek pot fan inside of Pont Lekin, and there is the motif of fight that later is represented in many Greek and Phoenician myths. And we have more and more, even such that we can compare. There is very detailed Phoenician art of work, and in geometric Greek art, of course, is the very primitive. But anyway, step by step we can find the influence, and this traveling, this naval traveling, is very important in taking this influence and to sharing these common beliefs, and later to changing them, of course, in the special manner. But anyway, the Greeks are deeply influenced by these all Eastern cultures. Thank you a lot. I hope I was in time.
Thank you very much for your presentation.